the lord of the delay in the queue. And it was there, right in the middle of the hall, which looked more like a palace than in a clinic. I felt the ground disappear in a second, because it is not just a phrase, the cross in the air. It was just an act, a word of caution, a public shaming, with the smell of expensive perfume and the smile that is trained. And I know what you're thinking. It's more of a history of people, an arrogant Destratando someone's that simple. I just need you to listen to me carefully, because what happened after that? No one there. Not even I was prepared for it. At that moment, I could have shot back. He could have raised his voice, pointed his finger, made a scandal. But I didn't. It's not because I was weak. I didn't do it because I want to see where they were going. I've had it. They were all there. And believe me, they gave to him. Before I continue, I'm going to give you two things that might seem simple, but it changes everything. If you subscribe to the channel right now and share this video with someone else who has already been judged by their appearance. Because this story is not my own. It's a mirror. And you will understand in the end why I'm asking you, this is so hard. Breathe in, and it comes to me. For the Lord is a delay on the queue. In this sentence, there was only so-called. It was released on, as a razor blade, as if the entire place had stopped just so that everyone could hear it. It was not yelled out, it is not. And perhaps that's the worst of it. It was said in that quiet and cruel to those who are absolutely sure that no one is going to contest it. Have you noticed how all of the worst victims do not come with you? Come with a controller. It was as if she was just stating a law of the natural order of the universe. Like, if I were to be a statistical error. One obstacle out of the place. A foreign body that needs to be removed from the scene so that everything is back to normal. And tell me something. Have you ever felt it at some time? Feel like bothering them just by being? I'm looking forward to sitting down in the chair. It clearly doesn't fit with the rest of one's environment. Everything was shining. Everything in it seemed too expensive to me to breathe. The air was smelly, freezing cold, clean, in a way that's not a comfort. It intimidates. A luxury to be so exaggerated that seemed to say it all the time. This place is not for you. The lamps are not lit up. They had the power. The walls are not decorated. They delimited the area. I was with my simple clothes, in my documents folder. You spend a clock on your wrist. It looked like a typographical error in that scenario. That's perfect. You can't imagine the weight of it, to be in a place where everything screams that you don't belong. But here's the part that can change everything. The problem was not that I was there. The problem with this is that I didn't really know where I was. And it's more than that. I didn't really know why I want to be there. The woman who let out that sentence, I had a badge, gold, such that shine brighter than they actually are, with a smile, which has been tested, too perfect to be a human being. And the eyes are empty. The eyes of those who have already decided who you are, even before you listen to the sound of your voice. She looked at me as if I had poured hot coffee into a white carpet is imported. After that, I saw something even more disturbing. People are fashionable to pretend that it had heard, but by listening to each other. Head slightly tilted. Look of the corner. This curious silent, which is created when the humiliation of not is up to you. You know the scene, right? When the harassment turns to a type of entertainment in the silent era. No one did anything. No one said anything. For all the world, there had been secretly relieved to not be the target. And then it comes to the detail that changed everything. For the detail that no man knew, but he made that scene even more outrageous. This isn't the first time I was there. I had already passed through those gates before. He had already breathed in the cold air. I've seen the same faces, but this time, it was the first time that I came in that way, with no clear condition, symbol of power visible to you. Without the armor, I let the sentence in order to beat. I left her crossing off my chest. I let the silence grow. It's heavy, uncomfortable, and while the whole world waited for my reaction, so I said very slowly, "So, this is how you treat someone that you think that it is of no value." I couldn't get up. I might be gone for a while. I could have ended it all right there, at that very moment. But answer me truthfully, do you think that would have been enough? I did. And I'm not because I'm weak. I got it because I didn't go there to seek for a favor. I was there to see, to confirm. I leave that to them, they were. I went in there to light a fire, but there's a fire in the scent. One fire, a silent, slow, and impossible to delete it later. And the most absurd of all of this, as long as they thought they were dealing with someone insignificant, I hadn't even shown you not 1% of what I know, and that's exactly where the story begins for real. Let me describe to you a scene with the calm down, because every detail matters. And while you're listening, I want you to ask yourself, how many times the brightness, and served only to hide the dirt? The front desk was massive, wide-ranging too, almost as a stage actor. Armchairs, clear, perfectly lined, cozy tables with a magazine that no one actually said they were there just to render the image. Music low and played it the whole time, the kind of sound that you try to appear to be sophisticated. But in the end, it only serves to drown out the conversations of inconvenience. And in the back of the counter with a row of attendants and with the same face, in the face of the good morning auto, a smile that does not reach the eyes, in the manner that you do not see no one in fact. For the people out there don't expected it to be. They dance while they were waiting. The cell phone is always at hand, the posture of the owner, of the time. Look at that. She swept up the environment, as well as those who assesses the display case. Have you ever noticed how some people just don't look at the people, look at the price, to branding, to the status? There, that was the rule. And let me ask you, have you ever felt invisible in a place that is full of people? And I was there, holding on to a password tempered. It's not because I was a mess, but that's because I had it on tight to that paper, with the strength of the others. After listening to that sentence, it was as if the one piece of paper, it was the only proof that I had a right to be there. Have you ever felt that? Hold on to something, as if it's her last stand. In the meantime, the manager, yes, it's the same, does not come straight up to me. First of all, it has observed from a distance. And it was only then that I realized that the ritual. She measured my shoes. He measured it in my folder. He measured my hair. He measured it with my attitude. Everything was silent, all of it in seconds. A trial of the full, that is done without a single question. How would you like an app running in your head, that is Escaniava people, and it even breathed a result of the dry ground? Don't you belong to? You are able to feel the weight of that word, and without it, nor will it be told. When she walked in my direction, it was not in a hurry to work. It was something else. It was in a hurry to get to the error of the scene, in the rush to clean up the image, in the rush to return to the atmosphere of the pattern, that it was going to be all right. The Lord's been waiting for how long? She asked. Her voice was too sweet to tell you the truth. Kindly be false, and those that fail in the first second that you don't lower your head. Have you ever heard that tone before, right? That tone which says, she answers quickly and it does not give me a job. I told him calmly, very cool, with a calm that not even I knew what I had. The time that is required to be satisfied at the time that I made. And there was some of it is cool. Her face froze for a millisecond. A microsegundo, barely noticeable. But I vie, because she was expecting something else. A request. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, that was deception. In a submission to a culture. And I will not give you any of that. You have to understand something about me. I had seen a lot of that so-called premium. I have a channel. I'll tell you stories. I talk to people. I've sat with people who are very rich, and some people just don't have anything. I've heard the arrogance in disguise, education, humility, and genuine in improbable places. But this place was a particular kind of family, the arrogance of those who think the same. And he will answer truthfully, is there a time when someone, the same, was not hiding from something? Because when a company, an institution, a person believe that you will never be asked, and she begins to let the things that no one would allow it. The manager gave a signal to shorten the leg, almost impatiently, and the receptionist, a young woman of impeccable nails, perfect makeup, and you looked tired, and began to type in my username, not with that attention, but as someone who is doing a huge favor, as is anyone who thinks, let's get it over with. And that's when I vie. In the first, a microshock. The receptionist made up of the minimal, barely visible, as if something unexpected had popped up on the screen. The fingers of her hesitated for a moment. The auto smile fell to a half inch. Have you ever seen this kind of reaction? When you see something that's not supposed to be there. The manager noticed it at the time. Her body stiffened. The look has changed. It came way too fast. And at that very moment, I don't think it had anything there that I could not come to the fore. And that's exactly why she decided to crush me at the time. Before anyone knew it. Prior to that, every single detail escape. Prior to that, the deluxe would start to crack and no longer appear in the decay hidden under it. And trust me on this one, cracks had already begun. "You're holding up the queue," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We will have a stream here. The people with the time, procedures taking place." "Not only that," she said. It was as she said. The pause is strategic. The didactic tone, almost in education, just as if you were explaining to a basic rule of thumb for anyone unable to make any sense. Have you ever noticed how some people will humble themselves in pretending that they are only getting organized? I picked up a password, and it showed. Slow down. Take your time. Not a single tremor in his hand. "I've got time." It was a simple sentence, neutral, inescapable. But she didn't want the facts. She wanted to submit. She did not even look right for the password, and did not work. It made it worse. She laughed. A cold short. Dry. No humor. No. That laugh. That's not fun. Disqualify them. That laugh that says, "You're not doesn't matter." Have you ever been laughed at as well by any chance? Not to you, but for you. "Even so," she went on, with the tone of the fake patient, "let's call the pro-lord is waiting for you. For the last one, notice the choice of words. We're going to ask." But there was no request, no one there. It was an act, in a ruling made public, and the major was not for her to say that. It was in the environment can support. No one questioned it. No one responded. No one averted his gaze out of shame. I feel your eyes across my neck like needles. I hear you whispering it. Those whispers poison, which is only there because you think that you're not going to listen to it. He must have mistaken the place to be. What a shame. Poor guy. This poor guy. Have you noticed? It often comes loaded with contempt disguised as a pen. If you were below it too much to deserve respect, but too much to be ignored. And while all this was happening, I thought he was on the inside. That's perfect. You're giving me exactly what I came to collect you. Why do I want it to be like this? Raw, to the public, a matter of course. I want that there would be no room for doubt after this. Anything from, "You might have understood it wrong." No such thing as, "It was only a print." I turned to the Pro Tour for the new one. The voice is firm, with mutual respect, control. And here I have a question. Are you able to stay calm in a situation like this? Please, give my schedule. Full name, Raymond Zeff. Date of birth, 17th of May, at 10 o'clock and 40 minutes. I said slowly. Every word is in place, as someone who is planting cuttings into the ground. The receptionist pretended to look for, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Clicks are slow too, sighing over the top. That face, "Oh my God, why did I have to deal with it?" He was putting on an act, a theater in the cheapest one, and the manager of the side, and he crossed his arms. Met, as if he had just finished winning a dispute over who is invisible. And right now, I'm just going to stop for a second story to tell you from what I have heard. Comment below if you have ever gone through a situation in which you dealt with other than just for looks. No need to mention names. Just tell me where it was. The store? To the hospital? School? Job interview? Because of this, it is not an exception. This is the default. And the more we talk, the less they are able to pretend they don't exist. Again, they began to call the password of a number of, and then another one. The people who came in after me and went in front of me without even realizing what was going on. Because of a privilege it is to do this. You won't see in the queue, a queue that opens up for you. And I kept on standing there, sat, as a whole. Once again well-educated, as those who insist on the truth, no crack on the inside. Please give my schedule. And, that's the most intriguing thing of all. And the longer I kept it on the quiet, further, the manager became upset, because it is nourished by their reaction to it. Of his anger, the shame of it, his lack of control, when you're not delivering it. that we lost on the ground, and I have seen it in her eyes. The jaw is locked, the foot tapping lightly on the floor. It was at this point that I began to understand it in the game, and he was right there. She decided to go one step further. It was not the faintest idea of what he was about to wake up. The head bent slightly forward, as the one who is going to have to tell you a secret, but he made a point to speak loud enough for everyone to hear. The tone almost sweet, almost sympathetic, and that it tries to look for help, but in fact, it is a poison in disguise. The Lord, it may be that the Lord will be tagged in the other drive. It happens. Sometimes people are confused. To the people, do you feel it? Because I've felt it. It was as if she was putting me in a group of invisible, a group of misguided, those who don't understand those that don't know where you are standing. I was unable to read and address is simple, as if the problem was in my head, and it's not about the system. And I was asking myself, there in the times of the day, how many times has that phrase had been used to push someone out of that place? I said with irony, did not raise his voice. I've made something a lot more dangerous for those who have the mind. I have presented the facts. I pulled it from his pocket, a folded paper, already half spent to be used, and placed it carefully on top of the counter. Here it is. Acknowledgement, email address, the number of the protocol. Simple, straightforward, clean. The receptionist picked up the paper with the tip of his fingers, as if it were contaminated. How to play in that document was to reduce the value of it. Have you ever noticed how your contempt, it also lives in the actions they are young? She typed it in once again. I saw him again. This micro face. This time there was no doubt. He was startled inside. It was the one in reflection of the fast of one who sees something he had not expected to see. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. It's just that, now it was over. She looked to the side. Fast. Nervous system. With a look of almost childlike, looking for the manager. As to those who ask for help in the silence. Answer me this, when someone looks at it as well, it's because you've found a bug. Or is it because you found out the truth? The manager noticed it right away. He approached the counter too fast, and he saw the screen, and for a second, micro, her smile does not fit on your face. That was quick, very fast. But I vie. And when you learn how to observe people, you understand and agree that in those seconds that say more than words has been tested. And you know what that means, right? It means that you have something in your system, the real thing. Something that you registered with. Something that they didn't want to deal with at the moment. The manager, if the restored at the same rate. But the acting in this way. He hardened his voice. And he attacked. Sir, this is the kind of course of action is to close all the way. We work with the pattern. And it has made a pause. And based on looking up and down my outfit, you'll need to follow the criteria. In there I almost smiled, kind of. Because in that second, everything became clear. Of course, too. It was not on the cue. It wasn't about the time. It was not on the system. It was on by default. It was about a person who seemed to deserve it, and those who seemed to be disposable. It was about the look and feel. It was about power. I took a deep breath, and with the peace of mind that you and I swear that I don't know where they came from, I told him, that's okay. It only buys you more time. Do you know what happens when you don't react as you expect? When you are not screaming, when you do not ask, when it does not collapse? The environment is changing. I have felt that way at the time. An absence of light, almost imperceptible, if you went out in the hall. Because when you are humiliated, and the script, of course, it falls apart. When it does not fall apart, it scares him. The manager gave a signal to the dry, almost aggressive, and the receptionist went back to typing. And that's when it happened. Something that almost no one has noticed. But I knew, at the same time. The cursor froze. For the second one. A second one was too small to turn around the scandal, but it was too big to go unnoticed. The receptionist swallowed. Literally. The neck made her move. And I think to myself, there you go. Because I know this kind of place. It is not common mistake. It is not the slowness of the system. This is the kind of locked on, which is set just before a thunderstorm, and when it comes to, did not have the luxury enough to hide from what is shown below. They called it the greatest number. The watch has progressed too slowly. and in the cold, that the air conditioning seemed to come not only in my own skin, but in the peace. It was a cold that wasn't in the mood, coming from the environment, the vineyard of the people, and I know exactly who you could be thinking about right now. But why did you go through all of this? I've put up with it because I have a reason that you haven't seen it. I put up with you because I wanted you every second of the contempt were recorded. No on, board memory, the behavior from them. Not for revenge, on the cheap, but for true justice. Because when its wrong is wide open, it has no way to escape later. A lady with a handbag from the brand went through me, and he looked at me as if I had invaded a private club. One of those looks, and faster, up and down, which I think you and throw you in from the very first time. A man wearing a suit and expensive commented on something in the ear of the wife, and they burst out laughing. They laugh, but they laugh. And the manager seemed to be having fun with all of it. Have you ever seen someone and have fun with the humiliation of others? I've figured out how to do this. It says more about the one who humbles himself than it does about who's humiliated. It was then that she made it a point to make it more clear who the boss. She took hold of my password. Look, and it has returned to be tempered. On purpose. It was not a distraction. It was not nervousness. It was a gesture calculated. As if to say without words, you don't send it on your paper. That didn't hurt. But that's not the way she expected it. I took a deep breath, with a sigh, long and controlled. And at that moment, an image that went through my head, like a punch in the quiet. Oh, Naomi wasn't my mother. It was not my sister. It was not my daughter. Naomi was the person who taught me that dignity does not have a label. You do not have a price. You do not have the address of a noble. The person who showed me that, in practice. For not, and ask yourself the third wave. And all that was going on at the clinic. All of it. She had gotten for her. I closed my eyes for a moment. There's only one. Enough to remember why I was there. Enough that I do not react in the wrong way. And when I opened my eyes, I said, with a voice more subdued than I could, I hope I will. No problem. It only gives it to my schedule. There is any shred of sympathy false. Disappeared from the face of the manager. She does not pretend anymore. Right now, she wanted me to win. I break down. To make me give up. Because of the calm turns into a reproach for those who live out of control. She bent over his face impatient and said, "The Lord, it is not possible. If the Lord is not in the system, and the Lord is not in the system." It was in fact the officer, in the last sentence, in the attempt to end it all for granted. I leaned lightly on the head, not in submission to him, in a challenging off. "Buys you more time." It was at that moment that I saw something that made me shivered. One of the attendants at the side, a young boy, uniform, flawless face, even without the armor of indifference. He looked at me, not with contempt. Sorry. And then, at the very first time, from the look, as if he were afraid of being caught, being a human being. He didn't know. He knew it was wrong. He knew it wasn't right. But in this place, wrong. It was challenging. Wrong. He was to be questioned. Wrong. It was to see each other. And I'm tired of this place. I got up slowly. No strong feelings. No rush. I looked up to, and that simple movement made it to the whole of me to notice it. Conversation ceased. The looks were. The air had changed. The manager stepped back half a step. He instinctively. Have you ever noticed how some people are brave when you're sitting down, when you get up? They remind you that you're here. I talk to the bottom, but it's firm, looking straight at it. You can call whoever is in charge. I'm going to wait for you. And in that moment, at that very moment, she made a small error in the end. The kind of mistake that changes the course of everything. She looked him in the back, like the one who wanted the audience, and with a louder voice she said, "Oh Lord, now we have been working with clients from as standard, ready to go. There, it's not me, hurt to me. She hurt all over the world who have already been referred to as minus, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest. He was not blind rage. It was just another thing he was sure of. I walked up to my face on the desk. I looked directly into her eyes and said, "That's okay." Gives it one more time. And I'm going to ask you again. Comment below what you would do if someone were to say this in front of everyone. Do you swallow? Are you pop? Would you go away? I want you to know. For real. Because it is a very important part of this story, it only made sense that when I read the comments of other people who have gone through similar things, the manager made a gesture of impatience, and the receptionist entered. And then, a sound, with a short beep, and then another, and another one. A screen flashed back to the counter. The receptionist paled. The manager frowned. And then, just for a second, the air that the clinic in luxury, it was as heavy as lead. The receptionist said something that I didn't listen to me. Super anti-mouse, one of his hands, and looked up. And I've seen her face losing color. It was not the fear of, wow, it gave an error. It was panic. It couldn't happen to you right now. She tried to hide it. He tried to smile. But her smile seemed to be a mask to dry. The Lord, for just a moment. And I thought, this is just beginning. The screens have caught on to the truth. In a computer, and I was too high. Then the other machine as well. A phone rang and no one answered. Mobile phones have begun to vibrate at the pocket of the employee, as if the entire place had been receiving the same message at the same time. In the lobby, which was very quiet, arrogant, turned out to be a murmur of the restless. And that was when I saw a word that appears on your monitor, which is reflected in the glass, immediate freeze. The manager swallowed. It clicked, clicked, clicked. Nothing responded. An attendant ran to the pro rider. The other got up on the phone with her hand, trembling. A doctor came out of the gate with the coat clean and neat, but in the face of confused, and asked, "What's going on here?" The manager tried to appear in control, but her voice failed. It should be the instability in the system, only that the instability does not make us tremble as well. The receptionist, who up until then I was treated like garbage, and now you couldn't even look at me. She stared at the floor as if it were going to swallow her, and I, as he stood there, I felt something cold and powerful. The feeling of seeing a house of cards began to fall. Do you want to know why I'm asking you sign up here with so much power? Because if you think about it, this is just a story. The humiliation of justice. You're very much mistaken. From here on, what happened looks like the script of a movie, but it was real. And it was darker than I'd like. Then subscribe to the channel right now, because of the stories, as they do not appear in any one place. And it's because there are lots of people that need to hear it, so we wouldn't all be crushed in the same way. And safe and secure, because of the instability that was just the beginning. The worst thing came out of the top. You've seen the rich folks into a panic? It is not a panic quiet. It's a panic polite, but it never made. This is a complaint with a grin. It is a threat with a low voice. I'm going to call someone, as if they were of God. A woman got up and walked up to the counter. My procedure can no longer be cancelled. I came out of it. A man in a suit knocked on the card at a POS terminal, annoyed. As well as rejected. This has never happened to you, and it's a thing. He refused again, in the previous version. A master with the clock in bright. It was red, as if he was being exposed to. Because for a lot of people have a declined payment on the public's how to get them naked. The manager tried to calm her, but she was dismounting from the inside out. We're going to solve. It's just for a moment. Only it wasn't just a moment in time. I saw a door open in the hallway and the two people in black suits show up. Without a badge of the patient's face, the visitor. The manager looked at them and paled even more. One of the men spoke in a low, but when I saw his mouth form the words, "You've arrived." And then, at that moment, I realized the one thing that gave me a glimpse of a different one. They were not dealing with a technical issue. We're still dealing with a bomb. And this is the bomb had been armed for a few months. You know, when you realize that you have walked into a place and thinking it was a scene that, and in fact it was a stage set up for the trial? I was the one on trial. But that's not the way they had imagined. The manager went to the corner and tried to connect it to someone else. I heard her saying, "He has a PhD from St. Stephen's, caters to please, meet." No one answered. And so it came to pass, one of the more unexpected in my life. One of the clients that they looked me up and down with disdain. If you came up to me and said, almost in a whisper, "Do you know what's going on, right?" I looked at her. "And I don't," I answered. Because I know that if I do not respond in that moment, and I was all too soon, and I want that to fall would be complete. I took a deep breath. In the hall, the whole was very attentive. but they don't know what they were waiting for my sentence. The head went back, his eyes shining in the nervous system. Master, please, can we talk in private? Look at this. The woman, who minutes before I threw it on the ground, in the public, now he wanted to low profile. I looked at her, and I said loud enough for everyone to hear, not at all. The full conversation is here. And then I saw the faces in turn. I've seen cell phones being quietly withdrawn. I've seen the same voltage. I opened a folder of documents, slowly. I took out an envelope. I came here for a specific purpose, I said. I just want to confirm to you personally, such as this clinic deals with those who do not appear to be standard. The manager just sat there. I went on, because it's the I almost died waiting for care. Not for lack of medical attention, not for lack of equipment, but because there was no money. The money that was hers by right. Silence. And then I threw it at the pump. Have you strayed from the resources of the agreement to the public? They have transformed the queue for the sick people in the luxury of the hall. And I've got the proof. The manager tried to stop with a trembling voice. You're making a nonsense. I raised my hand, do not aggressively, with a supervisory authority. The absurd is to play around with the lives of others as well. And now, I will make an order. Comment below with a word that. Just one. The term, what do you feel when you listen to it? Anger? Sadness? Ugh. Justice. I want to read it. Because this moment, that was the moment I realized that I was not the most telling of a story. I'm looking forward to returning to a pain. I opened the envelope and showed them a copy. Name, date, values, your subscriptions. And so it came to no surprise that no one was expecting. Naomi was not the only someone. The Naomi was the one who taught me how to fight back. And that's the reason why I have become who I am. I looked at the manager and said, that's my wife. And in the hall seemed to be lost in the air. Because at the moment, everything is earned each other's weight. They are not embarrassed to be a stranger. Them to the humiliation of a man who buried his wife for the sake of a file that should not be there. And then, just when I thought nothing could get worse, the door of the fund was opened. And in the clinic, he found that the standard, it was going to be measured in another way. The officers came in. It was not a scene as a stage actor. It was not, let's talk. It was straightforward, objective, with a warrant in his hand. The sound of the heels of the managers on the ground have changed. The way her breathing changed. The way her gaze had changed. She tried to speak, tried to smile, tried to regain control, but it was too late. One of the officers stepped up to the counter. The ban immediately. From now on, none of the procedure goes on. All of the systems that are to be learned, documents, computers, and contracts. Do you want to see our faces? And I'm not talking about the rich folks with fear. I'm talking about people understanding in real time. They have built an empire on top of the weakness of those who don't have the voice for it. The manager tried to argue with, there must be a mistake has been made. We are not a clinic and the agent is not raised. The shade, do you want to explain it to the right place? And then there was a final surprise that I've kept so far. When I went to that clinic with simple clothes, I got just in case. I got into it that way because I wanted to be treated like I was actually, before we have any visibility. Why yes, I do have a channel. I'll tell you stories. I show up. I speak to thousands of people. But then, on that day, I wanted to be alone with a man in the street, and they treated me like a minus. It's just that the common man can also be the evidence. You can also get up the courage. It can also be a strategy. It may also be true. As the officers gathered up the documents, the manager finally looked up at me, and for the first time, I didn't see it with contempt. I have seen something in her that she had never felt for anyone what she thought. To fear. She said almost without voice, "Why did the Lord do this?" I told him firmly in the simplest way possible, "Because you have done this in the first place." And I came up with, no yelling, no party, without a humble, because of the righteousness of the truth is not in need of the audience. But I'll tell you one thing that I learned how the world changes as the people to swallow. Now, pay attention to what I'm going to ask you. Why is this important truth? Subscribe the channel if you want more stories, as the stories that start out in shock and they finish with the truth the whole way. Share this video with someone who needs to recover from the guts. Sometimes there needs to be a reason you do not agree to be trampled on. Leave a like you, because this is the video to get into who is living just exactly what I experienced. Comment below, do you believe that it looks like it defines you? And what has been the biggest injustice of the silent that you have ever seen? If you would like to help me, in a way, in even stronger terms, he writes, I do not accept more. In the comments, I'm going to fix some of them. Because of this, it becomes a commitment. And I mean, do I not told you this story just to be shocking? I told him, because there's people watching right now that it's being put to you in silence, all the while thinking that there's no way out. It has. Only sometimes it is the output starts when you decide not to shrink. And to wrap this up, have a history of showing up on the screen right now is a story even more ridiculous, and that starts with a single sentence and ends with a revelation that nobody's going to believe you. Click to watch right now.